What's up, guys? Noah here again with DMV Sports Zone, and today I want to talk about the unfortunate results of the playoff series for our Washington Capitals. They fell in 5 games, including a 4-0 loss in that elimination game in Game 5 against the New York Islanders, and it's an interesting one because we have a lot of questions starting off for the offseason, coaching, our staff, and the future of our team. So without any further ado, let's get started. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the series itself and what went right and what went wrong. We really lacked a lot of effort in that series. I think that in the past, we had that kind of extra gear. If you remember in 2018 when the Capitals won the Cup, we had the ability to kind of fight back in an elimination early in the first round. Even against the Penguins, we came back and won that series because we were constantly able to fight back. I remember Kuzi had that big hat trick. Ovechkin came up big. Backstrom, Oshie. But we simply didn't have that kind of magic. I don't know if it was the factors of the bubble. It's really hard to adjust to all these new changes, but we just simply didn't have that fight. And it showed. Kuznetsov did well, but for the most part, our lineups disappeared when we needed it the most, particularly in scoring. Ovechkin did his best, but Lars Eller, Burakovsky, Vrana, these guys need to step up. We expect Burakovsky and Vrana to take the next step. They've been in the league for a couple of years now, and if we ever hope they're going to become a legitimate second liner, first liner, we need them to score. Particularly with the aging core, Backstrom, Ovechkin, they're not getting any younger, So it's something that we need to really address, and that shows our lack of depth. In years past, we had Devontae Smith-Pelly. We had Lars Eller, back then, was in the third line, stepping it up, doing very well. Tom Wilson bringing in the energy, but we just simply didn't have it this time around in the series. And I definitely think that it's not just a series or a year thing. This is a concern that was happening in the regular season that just built up, kind of exploded in our faces for round one. And that's where we are right now. And that leads me into the second point is what are we going to do this offseason? Todd Reardon already fired. I think we've already shown that we made a huge mistake not re-signing Trotz. And the funny part is Trotz's salary that he wanted for his extension wasn't that long. He proved, now as the coach of the Islanders to beat his old team that we made a terrible decision. So where do we go from here? Current notable free agent coaches, we have Gerard Gallant, who was a former Panthers coach, Peter Laviolette, who was also Philadelphia Flyers coach, Nashville Predators coach. Where do we go from here? What leadership do we need to bring in to fit the system? Because we have the offensive firepower, but we need the motivation, the discipline, and the defense to go with it. So I think we need to maybe go a little different route. There's a lot of college coaches that we can call up. University of Minnesota's coach is looking pretty good. And there's been a couple of coaches in the league that have proved that going from college to the NHL is a relative success compared to, the NBA, for example, tend to be a league where college coaches don't transition well to the next level. But in the NHL and hockey, they do. So I think that's one way we need to look, and there's a lot of decisions for the Capital organization to make. And then on top of that, what do we do about Holtby? I think Holtby may have played his last game in a Capitals uniform, unfortunately. He's getting older. His performances have been in decline. He's just not the same type of goalie he once was. He's a little bit of an undersized goalie, around 6', 6'1". He relies a lot on his athleticism, and as he got older, that started to fade away, especially with the injuries. So a lot of question marks there. We don't know, will Ilya Samsonov be ready to be the next man up? Do we have enough depth in the pipeline? I know we just signed Zach Foucault, who's a former, lack of a better term, second round bust for the Canadiens organization. He can have potential. Goalies can always bloom late, but I'm really concerned about what we're going to do there. Do we address it in the draft? Because right now, as a first round elimination, we're not going to get a high draft pick. But luckily, the NHL draft is deep. We have drafted high. We had Ilya Samsonov, Semyon Varlamov, all these guys coming early in the draft, but do we need to bring in a veteran presence? Does Holtby come back maybe on a veteran contract, a little bit cheaper? Or do we let him go? Because right now his demands are that of a starting goalie salary. And I don't know if the Capitals should re-sign him because of that. And going from the pipeline out, we also have to talk about the defense. We have John Carlson, but what do we have from there? We very lack tremendous depth. Michael Kempney, we signed to a multi-year contract extension. He's not living up to expectations. He's a third liner at best right now. So where do we go from there? Do we go for an NHL defenseman in free agency, or do we go to the draft? Because defensemen are a little bit harder to groom and a lot of more question marks. There's no guarantees for a talented young defenseman. So we have a lot of questions, no answers. And it remains to see if those young guys will step it up. We need Vrana, we need Burakovsky to step it up. Kuznetsov finally made the move. He's an all-star. He's a superstar in his own right. But we can't rely on Ilya Kovalchuk, who's in his late 30s, to pick up the scoring. I think a big downfall of Todd Reirden, and he's insistent on putting the veterans out there. When Burakovsky looked like he had more of a shot, he was more of a natural scorer. And we keep blaming on Vrana too. So a lot of questions. I tried to, pour my thoughts in. My thoughts for being a long-time Caps fan, big hockey guy. We'll see what happens, but DMV Sports Nation, I hope the Caps can turn it around. And all we can do is hope for the best in the offseason next year. More updates will be coming from DMZ Sports Zone as we get them. So make sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter to see the latest Caps news, and hopefully we have some good stuff to post. Again, Noah, signing out. Peace.